Hey there, maniacs. No God. Let's go. Boy, am I glad to see you. Well, I keep seeing this all over the internet with reactors. I haven't watched them play it, but I keep seeing its title pop up. I have not heard this song. As I told you, 6 months before I started this channel, I stopped listening to any new music so that I would get as much of, do as many fresh reactions as I could do. So let's go listen to this now, and then I want to talk about Shambles a little bit after this. So here we go. No God, Bandmaid.
I
sweet. So well done. So well written. So what a band. See how interesting their music is? Their songs are not, there's no formula. And I think that's what makes Hiawatha think they're like the Beatles, right? I mean, she gives some concrete examples about, number of records sold, how much they tour, et cetera, et cetera. But it's this right here that speaks to a Beatlesque type approach more than any other thing. It's the interesting things that happen in the song that don't repeat. It's like you hear it once and you wait to hear it on the next round of the next few measures when it comes around again, and it doesn't happen. And you're like, where is it? But then they move on to something else, and they grab your attention over here to the right, and then over here to the left, something else is going on. And so what I did, now before I move off of this, I think Misa is a Terminator bass player. I wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley with her bass guitar. I mean, she is metal looking and awesome on that bass. Is she not? How about that breakout of that bass run there? That was so excellent. And I mean, there's just, her and Connie must have something. They've got this symbiotic thing happening because those drums were so interesting during that. And that's a thing about this band. You're going to have to start, to me, they're like Love Bites in the way that you've got to, if you want to look at a song, you've got to pull it apart, and it takes time. If you want to understand and here's something I don't know. I don't know what are their influences. What is Konami's influence on her guitar, for example, or even Miku, even if she's fairly new at it, she's got to have an idea of what she wants to sound like. I did from the very get-go, right? And I was a kid at the time, so you kind of you start to form that idea, and I'd like to know where their influences are and their songwriting, especially. Where did that come from? That song is so cool. Everything about it is cool, and the fact that they perform that live without a hitch is even cooler. You can't, nobody can fault this band. And that's something that I feel that got me off my couch, made me start playing my guitar again, made me start looking at music again, made me start being interested again in something I had just dropped. I mean, due to other things in my life, I had just thought, well, what's the point? Here's the point. Here's the point. There's no auto-tune there, and even if there is, there's a point to it. There's a reason it's in there. I watch Phil regularly bash the heck out of auto-tune, and I don't blame him one bit. I think it has ruined a lot of music, especially when they retro it and they try to, fix somebody's voice. And he has a long dissertation about that. And I highly recommend you go look at it. His link is on my homepage. But back to this. It was pointed out to me, and I will, I can't, I failed to write down who said some of this, and I apologize, and I'll give you credit in the comments. But one viewer pointed out to me that did I hear the hard panning that was going on in the background of Shambles? And I thought maybe I missed that, because these are busy songs. There's a lot going on. And if it's the first time for you to hear it or the second time, you can't pick everything out of there, right? Am I right? So I went back and listened to Shambles again because I wanted to start this process of understanding, can they be compared to the Beatles? Not are they the Beatles, not are they like the Beatles, none of that. But is their approach Beatlesque in terms of freedom within the genre that they express in their music, which is what the Beatles did. I mean, they didn't fear bringing in, I mean, nobody was bringing in harpsichords and brass sections and, string quartets and things like that into their music. The Beatles did it first. They did all that stuff first. They defined the genre. These are genre-defining bands that we're watching come out of the East. And the reason is they all have their own individual personality. And they're very different, and they all have different things that speak to why they are so excellent at what they do. And someone pointed out in a Love Bites video I did, they said, they thought the discipline in the Far East had something to do with it. And I was like, yeah, I agree with that. Years ago when I was over there in the Philippines, every nightclub I walked into, these bands were playing these cover songs just like it was the jukebox going. I thought, this is impossible. I've never heard a band this good. Their sound was perfect. They paid attention to every detail. And so I thought, well, wow, I don't know. How do you do this? And that was like 1975. They didn't have all the goodies that you have now to make your live sound so good. And there they were doing it. These guys were singing songs in English and stepping off the stage, and you'd ask them a question, and they couldn't answer you because they don't know English. So they weren't able to answer me. I thought, this is incredible. Yet they sound American or British when they were singing a song. It's because of attention to detail. It's discipline. It's humility. You can't have fun with something if you're not humble. If you take yourself too seriously, right? So, and I think that's why the Beatles speak to Hiawatha in terms of, in a connection to Bandmaid. They did not take Beatlemania seriously. In fact, it drove them nuts. That's why they quit touring. They said, we're going to the studio because ain't nobody listening to our music. They can't hear it over all the screaming. So anyway, I'm digressing, which is something I am famous for. So let me do something here that I think will speak to a couple of things. And I only did this quickly, so we'll try to go through it quickly, all right? So we did Shambles in the last video, and I want to look at it again, okay? So, and I'm going to just touch on some points here, right? And the first one is, I think that Konami can be compared to George Harrison in one way. I think she thinks out her lead solos before she plays them in the studio. Now, you're like, don't they all do that? No, they don't. Many guitarists just go in and do a hot take, when you're playing lead. Because generally what you want to do since you've played the song a number of times by the time you get to the studio with it. But I think that she writes, it's what Harrison said. He said, I write all of my solos out and I work them out until they're perfected, and then I play them exactly like I wrote them every time I play a song. So he had this precision about him. I feel the same way about Konami, because when you see her play, she's sticking these things in these tasty little riffs and runs in places that you wouldn't think to do it normally. You could have just let the song roll on. There was enough going on in it, for God's sake. But she does that. And when she does that, it doesn't have to stand out. It just adds flavor. So someone else that I think of when I think of something like that is Elliot Easton of the Cars, and he's one of my favorite guitarists because his licks were so tasty, so absolutely scrumptious. I mean, excellent stuff. just what I needed, or shake it up. I mean, what a hot run at the end of that song, or in the middle of that song. So I'm like, Elliot Easton never did anything that he didn't already completely write out and do it exactly the way that he wrote it out. He didn't improvise. Now, many guitarists do that. I do it all the time. You get into the box on a lead or on a scale, and you just play, because you can, because you're within the, boundary of all the notes. And I'm no lead guitarist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a rhythm guitarist. So my box is really small on the guitar, and I stay there. So, but what I'm saying is there's a precision. There's a thinking. They think it out in advance instead of just going in and playing a hot take of what they've already been doing in practice for a long time. That speaks to the precision of the band. This is what we expect in each part of the song. So let me run real quick here. And this is Shambles. I think I got to turn my headphones back on. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so with all that's going on in the song, this is the first thing that I picked up on. One of the commenters said to me, and I'm sorry, I'll give you credit in the comments, there was a hard panning going on, and I didn't hear it, so I had to go back and listen for it. It happens first at 45. Hear that first one? Okay, in my headphones, that's to the left. That one's to the right. So that's something the Beatles did all the time. They panned vocals. In fact, they panned everything at one point or another. But okay. And they were the first to do something like that in the studio, see? Now, right about in here, you can hear, it almost sounds like a synth, but I think it's Konami laying a separate track in the studio on her guitar, and she's got some kind of pedal on it where it sustains it infinitely, or maybe she's got it just over compressed or whatever. Hear the na na na. Did you hear that? Now, believe it or not, I don't know if you're hearing this, but that's going on through the largest part of the song. It's always an underlying feel going on in the song. That's interesting. That descending run that she does right there it speaks of the 1930s movies serial things of here comes the train and the girls tied to the track and now that bass breakout is freaking awesome. Okay, it's the second time they're panning, so you hear it in your left headphone. And there it is in the right. Can you hear that in the background? You hear that? I think she's doing that on the guitar because I thought it was a synth, but I saw her toward the end of this video. You'll see her actually playing that line. Now, she can't possibly be playing it live because that's got to be a separate track because she's over there doing a whole lot of rhythm work, but we'll go on. Now, this solo that breaks out speaks to what I was talking about. I think she planned every note of this solo. Now, what told me that she planned every note of this was that jump she just did right there. That's unnecessary. If you just want to play across this way, you don't have to jump all the way down. And that's kind of dangerous live because you're like, okay, I can miss that real easy. But she played it so much and she wrote it that way for a reason, probably because of where she's going to go next, combined with the idea that, okay, it's going to sound different on a different string, right? It's going to have either more punch or less punch, whatever she's going for there, because I don't know which string she flipped from and to, but okay, here we go. In fact, let's back that up and take a look at that again. Watch her jump that. Hear those vocals in the background, that choral sound, that choral vocal thing going on. That's awesome to throw that in there. Now, instead of her little 1936 movie serial rundown of the train's on its way down the tracks and everything's going to go into hell in a handbasket, this time she runs all the chords down. The whole band is coming together to do that same movement. So let me back up and let you hear that. See, and that was the outro, okay? And then, so I'm going to back up a little bit because I want you to hear Saiki. So that breath at the end, didn't have to add that. That gives it that feel of rawness, like they did it in your living room. Like you demanded them to play right there on the spot, and so they drug their equipment in and they just let it rip, and then they left everything in. Microphone was hot. I took a breath. You heard it. I don't care. That's what makes them Beatlesque in their approach. She did it on purpose, no doubt, but maybe it was an accident. So many things are. The first guitar feedback in rock and roll happened on I Feel Fine. John Lennon's guitar accidentally fed back from the amplifier when it was sitting up against it in the studio, and they left it in. He picked it up, they put it in the track along at the beginning of the song, and all of a sudden feedback was a part of music. It's these kinds of things that the Beatles did that defined the rock and roll genre, which was undefinable before that. There were too many different things happening in rock, and nobody was codifying it and bringing it together and making it a thing, a solid thing. And the Beatles did that, and they said, okay, here are the boundaries. And then they, down the road, went, and here's how you push them out. And this is what Bandmaid does. They take the boundaries and they push them out in their music. I'm high on this band. And it's because they have this personality that's playful, powerful. I mean, look at the contrasts. Miku is as playful and professional at the same time as you can get. And then Misa is just like this dominating presence on stage. Connie is like this clockwork master back there, like she's back there making Swiss watches at a high rate of speed. I don't know how to explain it because the stuff she's doing on the drums, we could do 10 videos on that alone. And I'm not a drummer. So chime in on the comments. Tell me she's not at the top of her game. And then Konami, and I guess Saki with her, they probably write together. I mean, I'm sure if you're the front person, you got some input. I haven't investigated yet anything about their process. So you're welcome to put them in the comments. Now, I know it's been a little long. I like to do these dives. This was off the cuff. This was in a hurry. This is not by any stretch a good deep dive, but it's just some observations I had of Shambles when I went back to listen. For the hard pan, I went ahead and listened to the whole song and pulled out a few jewels that I thought were in that song. This is what makes Bandmaid who they are, and I think as we go along, we can have an intelligent conversation about what they're doing in their process as we're wondering out loud, are they like the Beatles? So anyway, that's enough of me rambling on here. I appreciate you being here. Y'all are awesome. Thanks a lot for the visit. If you see a thank you button down there, can you hit it so we can start upgrading our production? And we're a ways from it, even if you're donating, because there is so much in the process that has to happen before they even begin to send the money my way. And also because of, I got lost here because I can't quit thinking about them. Because of the things that have to do with AdSense and copyright issues. I don't claim anything from these bands. I absolutely let all copyright claims go. I don't dispute them. This way I can just play the song for you without any type of censorship or problems like that. And I'm not saying that's why other reactors have a problem. They may not either. But generally I don't have a problem if I just let the claim go. And I do because I'm a musician, so I get it. I mean, they wrote the song, they made the song, they performed the song, they've done everything to get that song out there. It's their money. But in the meantime, we can also set up some merchandising. A Patreon channel is being set up now as we speak. And the thank you button shows up on like 2 bands. And I don't know if Bandmaid's one of them, but if you see it, hit it. Send me a cup of coffee's worth of money, and we'll start upgrading our production here so we can get more interesting in what we're doing. Instead of the 5 a dime look, here we got. So thank you very much. Love you. I'll see you later. Bye now.